I did my presentation on social cognitive theory, also known as social interactionism. So what is social cognitive theory? It is a theory that was created by Albert Bandura, who was a clinical psychologist with an extensive background in studying social behavior, and it attributes the way a person acts, learns, and thinks to a variety of social and personal factors. And those factors are reciprocal determinism, observational learning and modeling, human capability, and self-efficacy. So reciprocal determinism is the idea that one's cognition, behavior, and environment are all determinants of one another. So they all affect one another. If one changes, the other ones slightly change or change a lot, depending on the person. Observational learning. This is probably the biggest thing you'll want to know about social cognitive theory. It is the principle that people learn most directly through observation and modeling. It requires the observer to understand the outcome of replicating the modeled action, and evidence for this theory is found in the Bobo doll experiments of the 60s. So the Bobo doll experiments were an experiment where we had two groups of kids, and both of them were going to interact with this Bobo doll. And one group of those kids were given a video to watch of people abusing this Bobo doll. And the other kids weren't given a video at all. So the kids who were shown the video did end up modeling, imitating some of the same behaviors and abusing that doll. But the kids who weren't shown that video didn't do it. So for observational learning to occur, the following must be present. Attention. You must have the student's attention, and they must be concentrating on what you're saying. Retention. The students must be able to retain the information, come back to it a little bit afterwards and repeat what you said. Production. They must be able to apply the information to whatever topic you're talking about. And then motivation. They must be able to care about the information, or at least see why it's important to learn, and then feel that they should continue learning it. And then human capability. There are 4 different types of human capability that are important to social cognitive theory, and they are symbolizing capability. So that's the ability for humans to imagine a scenario and put in different symbols and be able to predict based on the symbols that they've replaced with. So an example of this would be using history, historical events to apply to the future and predict what's going to happen in the future. And then self-regulation capability is the ability for humans to regulate their actions despite how they may feel. Self-reflective capability is the ability for humans to look back on their behavior and think, is this good, bad? Should I do something different the next time I come into a situation like that? And then vicarious capability is the ability for humans to observe other people doing an action, and then observe the consequences of that action and determine if they want to do that action themselves. Self-efficacy is the confidence that one has in their ability to master a skill. It's a large determinant of learning, and sources that create student self-efficacy are enactive mastery experiences, observational experiences, social persuasions, and physiological and psychological states. And then the impact that social cognitive theory has had is it has inspired a lot of teachers to model instruction, model ideal behavior, and model ideal outcomes, because then the students will hopefully imitate it. And then it's inspired teachers to provide the right environmental conditions to support student efficacy, and it inspires teachers to instill self-confidence in their students, assuring them of their ability to master the subject matter. And that's all I have for you guys. Alright, so today we're going to be learning about energy flow within an ecosystem. So your bell work today, you have a bunch of different pictures of plants and animals on your desk. And what you're going to do is you're going to look on the backs of the animals. Those have what the animal eats. And you're just going to think about how these animals might interact with each other within their ecosystem. And I want you to take note of how the animals that you have, they all correspond to a single habitat. So you have rainforest, you have desert, and I have ocean. And I'll give you about a minute to do that. Think you're about ready? Okay, so we'll just discuss beforehand, where do you think the energy in your food comes from?
From plants and sun.
Yeah, from the sun, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And then, where does your energy go when you're done with it?
And poop it out.
Yeah, poop.
Not quite. So whenever you're doing your everyday activities, the energy leaves you in the form of heat. And that's what we'll learn about today. So our objectives are to understand where energy comes from and where it goes within an ecosystem. And then I want you to understand these key vocabulary words right here. We'll get a little bit more into that in just a sec. So for review, you guys should already know what an ecosystem is. That's the geographic area where plants, animals, and weather and landscape all work together to form a bubble of life. And then a food chain, you should know what that is. That's the sequence of organisms that shows how energy and matter are transferred through the consumption of food. So you know it starts with the sun, goes on to plants and whatever eats the plants and so on. So the energy pyramid, this graphic right here is going to be mainly what we're dealing with today. So these are our vocabulary words: producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, quaternary consumers, and decomposers. And as we go through this lesson, I want you to keep an eye on this energy bar right here. So as you know, these producers right here get their energy from the sun. They do photosynthesis to make energy, transfer energy from the sun and make it into usable energy. But as we go up this energy pyramid, we use the 10% rule. So each level you go up is going to be 10% of the last level's energy. So the primary consumers, when they eat the food, they get 10% of the energy that the producers have. Same thing with the secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and quaternary consumers. And then this, we're not going to go too deep into it, but I just want you guys to understand that the producers, the lower levels here, if you put all their organisms into a ball, into a room, you put them all together, these ones at the bottom are going to be a bigger ball than the ones at the top. They have more biomass than the ones at the top. So the law of conservation of energy states energy cannot be created or destroyed. So the energy that you got from your hamburger today, it had to come from somewhere, and it's going to go somewhere when you're done with it. And then, so this is where our energy flow starts for most ecosystems. It starts with the sun, and that's going to be the sun's energy is going to be made into usable energy by producers through the process of photosynthesis. And this is where plants basically eat sunlight. And as I've stated before, plants have the most energy out of all the other organisms on this on this pyramid. They're the most numerous as well. And then primary consumers, they eat producers and they don't undergo photosynthesis, so they can't make energy or change the energy that the sun radiates into usable energy. They eat the plant matter, make that into their usable energy through cellular respiration. And then secondary consumers, they eat primary consumers. Once again, they get 10% of the energy that primary consumers have. Tertiary consumers, say it with me.
Tertiary.
They get 10% of the energy that secondary consumers have. And then quaternary consumers, say it with me.
Quaternary.
They are at the top of the food chain as well as the energy pyramid. They get the least amount of energy from their food, and they are the least numerous type of organism in the food web. So what does it mean that they receive the least amount of energy from their food? It means they have to consume more of their food to get the same amount of energy to do their everyday actions, blinking, running, breathing, all that jazz. And then decomposers, these ones we're not going to focus too much on, but they consume all types of animal and plant matter, and they include fungi, worms, and bacteria. And then this, as I've said before, is an energy pyramid. It states the amount of energy that the different organisms get from their food, how many organisms are in each level, and then the amount or the kinds of organisms in each level. So you should have an idea already of what a food web is. It's a system of interlocking and interdependent food chains, and that's basically what we're going to be making today. And it represents the different relationships between the organisms in an ecosystem. So our food web is going to look a little bit like this one with the sun at the center. And I want to drill into your guys' minds that the sun is at the center and all the energy is radiating outwards. So these animals on the outskirts, farther from the sun, are going to be getting less energy from their food in comparison to the ones that are closer to the sun. So our activity today is going to be about these animals and plants you have in front of you. I have the ocean habitat, and I'll show you guys how to do the activity before you guys do it. But on this web right here, these colors represent different types of consumers and producers. So at the middle, it's the sun. The yellow is the sun, and then the green is the producers. Teal is secondary consumers or primary consumers, and then the blue is the secondary. Purple is tertiary. Red is quaternary consumers, and then the brown is the decomposers. And notice how the brown goes through the web because they eat any kind of matter. So when you guys come up to make your food webs, you're going to say what it is, you're going to say what it eats, and you're going to say what kind of a consumer or producer it is. So I'll have you guys pick out 8 different organisms here in a sec. And then out of those 8 organisms, you're going to have 1 plant, 1 fungus, and the rest are going to be consumers. So I will go ahead and demonstrate that before you get too into it. So we have kelp here for my ocean organism. What kind of organism do you think it would be on this web?
It would be a plant.
And what kind of a
Producer.
producer? Okay, and then this is a fungus. What kind of organism do you think it'd be?
Decomposer.
Decomposer. And then this is a clam. It eats algae. What kind of organism?
That's a primary consumer.
Primary consumer. And then this is a crab. It also eats algae. What kind of organism do you think it is?
Primary consumer.
Primary consumer. And then this is a stingray. It eats clams. What do you think it would be?
Is that secondary?
And then this is a squid. It eats crabs. What do you think it would be?
It's also secondary.
Right. And then this is a seal. It eats squid. What do you think it will be?
Is that
It'd be tertiary, right?
Tertiary. And then lastly, a shark. It eats seals and octopuses.
it's gonna be the quaternary?
Quaternary, yes. Right. Great job. High fives. Okay, so go ahead and pick out your 8 organisms. Remember, you want 1 plant and 1 fungus. And just let me know whenever you're ready to present.
Alright, I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
Alright, so first I got this cactus wren, which only eats cactus, according to the back of this. And so I'm going to put it as a primary consumer. And then I have this cougar, this desert cougar, which eats a lot of stuff. It eats deer, elk, mountain goats, coyotes, and even sheep. So I think this guy's gonna be a quaternary consumer. And then I have here a button mushroom, which is a decomposer because it's a fungus. I'm gonna put him up here. This is a coyote, which eats snakes, livestock, and poultry. So I would put him up here with the quaternary, but because this guy eats him, I'm gonna assume he's a tertiary consumer. That one's too small, not tight. Boom. And here is a Palo Verde tree, which is a producer. And then here is a desert tortoise, which eats grasses, weeds, and flowers. So he's a primary consumer. There. And this is a kit fox, which eats little rabbits and fruits. So I'm gonna say that he goes right with the secondary consumers. And then here is a little rabbit, desert cottontail, and he only eats grass and leaves. So I'm gonna say he's a primary consumer. Those are my guys.
All right. Good job. High fives.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. You ready? Yeah.
And we'll start with the producer, tropical plant. Go in here. And fairy bonnet, that's, I'm assuming,
A fungus.
a fungus, yes.
Yes.
So that would be in the decomposer.
Yeah.
Thank you. And jaguar is definitely the quaternary consumer because it eats monkeys, deers, reptiles, eats about everything that moves. Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. My hands. And a tarantula is gonna be down here.
What do they eat?
They eat beetles, grasshoppers, caterpillars, so I think they would be secondary.
Right. It's primary, secondary.
Secondary.
Do it.
Okay. And I have a butterfly here, blue. Can't see that.
Just a butterfly.
It's a butterfly, which I believe is a primary as well. It eats fruit, tree sap, nectar.
Yep.
Thank you. The golden poison dart frog eats insects. So only insects would be, again, would be the secondary.
Yep.
The snake eats reptiles and amphibians. Secondary again.
It eats amphibians.
Oh, then
It's
it would
a
actually be a
tertiary.
tertiary, excuse
Yes.
me. And the giant anteater eats ants, frogs, and spiders. Definitely primary.
Ants,
Or
frogs, and spiders. Ants, frogs, and spiders. So
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
frogs, it could be the
right with the snakes.
it could be the tertiary.
Tertiary.
Yes.
And the monkeys, they eat flowers, leaves, and fruits, so they are in primary.
Yes. And then I forgot to
I
say
didn't do a quaternary.
you did.
Oh, I did
Jaguar.
it.
Mhm.
The only one.
I didn't say for yours, but I just want you to explain to me the flow of energy. In what way is it flowing from this food web?
Well, from the plants to the
Everything else?
yeah, from the sun to the plants to the insects to the insect eaters to the
All right. Double high fives. All right.
I think you
So
should leave them up.
leave them up. Yeah. Okay. So to summarize, this is the millionth time I've had this on the screen. I really want to drill this into your minds. The graphic we have here. And I want you guys to understand where energy comes from and where it radiates outwards to. So, like she said, the energy is concentrated most over here, starts with the sun, and it radiates outwards. And these outer regions have a lot less energy than the ones closer to the sun. So, do you guys have any questions about the material we discussed today? Nope. All right. And then how confident are you in your understanding of the energy pyramid?
Very confident.
yeah.
Understand all these words?
I can go to college now.
Heck yeah, you can. All right. Great job.
Yay.
A plus.